what's up, welders? Welcome to another episode of Adventures in Welding. Today, something a little bit different. If you're not into machining at all, feel free to skip over this video. You're not going to hurt my feelings. But if you are, stick around and maybe you'll find something you like. For everybody else, this is going to be a review of the Central Machinery 7 by 10 inch precision mini lathe from Harbor Freight. Now this thing weighs almost 90 pounds and it comes in a cardboard box with a wooden top and bottom, steel banded around it. It's shipped very well and I got it with no damage. So what do you get? You get the lathe, okay? Headstock, tailstock, bed, carriage, chip pan, safety guard, couple wrenches, whole set of Allen keys. I only have the two here that you're going to use most of all, and one of these 4-way turret type tool holders. No tooling. You do, however, get a live center for the tailstock. Alright, we're going to start off here at the headstock, the head of the lathe, the controls. This is a 110 volt lathe, 110 volt motor, so it comes with the standard US 3-prong plug. Now, the controls are all right here. We have your forward and reverse switch, and in the middle, where it is now, is nothing. Forward is to you. That means it is going to be rotating in this direction. Reverse is away, it'll be rotating in that direction. The main power switch with a little LED indicator, and your speed control, which is also switch operated. Those are the controls on the front of the lathe. Okay, on the rear of the lathe here, you have your high and low gear control, and you have your lead screw direction, neutral, reverse, and forward. You have to pull that out so that it goes into a detent. This will swing easily, but you tend to have to rotate the gears a little bit to get it to engage. Okay? Alright, back to the front of the lathe and your controls. So to turn on the lathe and get it spinning, this safety cover has to be in the down position. There's a little switch right here, and if that is up, the lathe will not operate. So you pick your direction, power on, see the little LEDs lit up, make sure this is down, and we are in the low gear mode here. You can see this, which will give us a maximum speed of 1100 RPM. So to power it up, all we have to do now is turn the knob and the lathe is operating. That's about 550 RPM. There's 1100 RPM. And you see how that goes. That goes up, it automatically stops. And if it comes down, it does not restart. You have to turn this switch off and then re-engage. Alright, from the headstock we will now move to the tailstock, which sits here on the rear end of the lathe. The tailstock slides on the bed of the lathe, and unfortunately the only way to lock it is to get in here with a wrench. I know that doesn't seem like a big problem, but it can interfere with the carriage and a lot of other things. It makes it a pain. Online, a place called Little Machine Shop sells a cam lock adapter. I think it's about $30 for this. I'll be adding that to the lathe real soon. And what it does is simply adds a lever back here so that you can do it like that. Now the tailstock, right now I have the dead center in it, and it has about 2 inches of travel. Graduated scale on there. And this handle here locks the tailstock into position. Now, the tailstock has a number 2 Morse taper. So let's retract. Now watch this little sleeve right here. It retracts into the tailstock and releases whatever tool you have. That is the number 2 Morse taper, and that is a live center. Now sadly they did not include a drill chuck with the lathe, which limits about half of the things you can do with a lathe. But I ordered this one from Amazon for about $30. And it engages in just the same way, like that, so you can do your drilling operations. And we'll cover that a little further on in this review. Now we're looking end on at the tail end of the lathe, and I've removed the tailstock. It just slides on right here. You fit that little T-nut into this groove and it goes on. But as it comes from the factory, you will need to loosen this screw right here in order to remove the tailstock. Alright, now let's talk about the carriage and the carriage controls. This large black knob on the bottom is your longitudinal feed. That moves the carriage towards and away from the headstock. This small silver handle here with the graduated dial is your cross feed, and that moves your compound and tool holder longitudinally in and out. And this small silver dial back here is your compound adjustment, and that moves the compound in the x-axis along whatever angle you have it. Now, here is a real pain in the ass with this particular lathe. In order to adjust the angle of the compound, which you're not going to do a lot, but if you cut tapers, you're going to have to do it. The compound needs to be almost completely unscrewed to reveal these 2 Allen head screws here and here. Once they're loosened, the compound can be rotated to the desired angle. And there is a nice protractor right there. Now, for probably the majority of your lathe operations, that's not really going to be a necessity, but it does become a necessity sometimes, and it can be a bit of a pain in the butt. Now we're going to talk about the tool post. I'm going to remove this cap here so that I can remove the tool post and show it to you. You can mount 4 different tools in here, from 1/4 inch to 3/8 inch. The tool post slides on here and is locked in place like this. Now, it does have detents that allows it to be pretty much locked in either of these positions, but that detent is spring loaded so you can put the compound in any position that you want for your turning. Alright, as I said in the beginning, the lathe doesn't come with any tooling, so you're going to have to purchase your own tooling. It can use 1/4 inch, 5/16, all the way up to 3/8 tooling. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the different types of tooling, a quick primer here. There's a 60-degree tool for cutting threads. You can also use it for turning and facing. There is a right-hand cutting tool. I have a left-hand cutting tool on the tool post. This is for cutting internal threads. This is a carbide insert in the tool holder. This is another 60-degree tool with a carbide cutting surface brazed onto it. This is a parting tool for cutting things off. Like I said, any type of tool that you want to use, you can use on here. Alright, let's talk about some materials. Alright, before we get into materials, there's one thing I forgot to mention, and that is that this lathe does have a power feed on the longitudinal axis. To engage it, you flick this handle down, and you can see it turning. It will move proportionally to the speed of the lathe. To stop it, you lift that handle up, and there are change gears in the head of the lathe to change your different gearing for your different threading operations. But if all you're going to be doing is turning, it's not really going to be a problem. You can leave it as it comes. It does come with the change gears. Alright, different materials that you can use with this lathe. This is Delrin plastic, aluminum, steel. The lathe can cut just about any type of material that you are going to use in your hobby machine shop operations, and you are just going to have to adjust your depth of cut for each different material. For instance, this Delrin plastic, you can take a much bigger bite than you can with the steel pipe. Alright, what I'm doing here is what's called facing. This is where you flatten the end of your workpiece so that it is perpendicular to the length of it. And you do that by cutting across the face. This is the Delrin I'm spinning here. You can take a pretty good cut, probably up to 25, 30 thousandths with it. I'm just cutting about 10 thousandths, nothing too big. I'm just playing around, getting a feel for the lathe. You can see I'm using a left-handed tool, and you're cutting with just the tip. Alright, after facing your work, the next step is usually center drilling it. We're using a combination center drill countersink here. It's in the chuck, which is in the tool post, and this will drill a perfectly centered conical shaped hole into the material. After this, you can drill it deeper, you can use a center, but this is generally the next step. Okay, in this operation we are going to turn the work to a diameter. That means we are going to reduce it to a set diameter. We're starting out here with 2 inches and 75 thousandths. The work is chucked in the machine. The dead center is there to hold everything steady. We have our 60-degree cutter in, and we are going to apply it to the work. The first step is to set your 0 point. We turn the lathe on, and then we bring the cross slide in until we just touch the work. You'll see a line appear. That's called touching off, and that is how we know we are at 0. Now I'm going to engage the lead screw into the forward direction, and we'll use the power feed to make a nice smooth turning operation. Turn the lathe on, about 300 RPM. Then we're going to dial in 10/1000ths of an inch for this cut and engage the power feed. The machine does all the work. All we have to do is disengage the power feed when we're done with the cut. And then we bring the carriage back and we repeat this process until we've reached the diameter we're looking for. Alright, so overall impressions. Before we get to that, the lathe also comes with 2 sets of jaws. I have the external jaws on there. It comes with internal jaws already set up. The internal jaws are good for gripping things up to about 1.5 inches. Beyond that, you're going to want to put on the external jaws. And now this 7 by 10 inch lathe means you are theoretically able to swing an object 7 inches in diameter by 10 inches long, but in theory and in practice you're going to find out that you're going to have trouble with anything that's really that big. For instance, this is a piece of 3-inch black iron pipe. Black iron, is really just steel. I'd have to switch to the internal jaws to mount it up there. But if you take a look at that and bring the cross slide all the way out here, I'm going to bring the cross slide out to its maximum depth, and you can see at that 90-degree tool angle it's not going to make it. Now, yeah, we can adjust the tool holder to give ourselves a different angle and would be just fine, but I would say 3.5 to 4 inches is the maximum diameter of an object you're going to be able to turn on here. The hand wheels, as with any lathe, have some manner of backlash. See that right there? When changing directions, you're going to have a little bit of dead space, and that's a necessity in the design of the mechanical lead screws on here. There's nothing you can do about it. You're just going to have to account for it. Your compound and your cross slide have precision dials. Each tick mark, as it says here, is 1/1000th of an inch or 25 millimeters. So when you go from 0, 10 thousandths, 20 thousandths, 30 thousandths, 1 revolution is 40 thousandths of an inch. Now that's the same for both cross slides. Final impressions. For the price, this was listed at $549 with the 20% off coupon. I believe I walked out of there for around $480. For the price, this is an excellent small lathe. It did come with a chip guard on the back. I took it off because I do a lot of hacksawing pieces off and it was getting in the way. There is a thread chasing dial for threading. The bed is nicely machined. It is relatively sturdy. Now you see there is a slight bit of movement here on my compound. The cross slide and carriage are locked in very nice. Expect to pay another $30 to $50 for a drill chuck and at least $30 more for your tooling. I would give this lathe 3 3/4 out of 5 stars. for what you're paying for, it's an excellent little lathe. Like I said, you have some slop here and there. You can adjust the gib strips to work that out. The tailstock not having a cam lock, I mean, what's the difference in price? Maybe 25 cents, but they cheaped out, so if you want a cam lock, you're going to have to buy one separately. It's 110 volts, it's 90 pounds, it is 2 feet long by 1 foot deep by about 14 inches high. This is an excellent safety feature. There's another guard that goes here, but that drives me nuts. Would I recommend it to a friend? Absolutely. Get yourself a paintbrush. Keep your lathe clean. It comes covered in grease. You're going to want to wipe that all off before you begin any operations. There's going to be a lot of chatter when you're doing any plunge cutting. That's just the way the lathe is made, and there's not too much you can do about it. But that's it. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Now get on out of here.